What's going on, my wonderful peeps out there in the nation? Your man Sly here with part 2 of my PVP sniping video. Welcome back. Part 1 is listed below if any of you missed out on seeing the vid yesterday. It covers the basics of choosing a sniper rifle and area awareness, specifically learning maps and how the radar works. This time in part 2, we're going to go over something I like to call headshot level stance, target acquisition, and then finally lining up the shot with different scoping techniques like no scoping and drag scoping. Everything feeds off one another, so topics will flow into each other. This, like part 1, will be a longer video, so once again, throw on those viewing panties, kick back, clear your calendar for the week, and let's do this. We left off at area awareness in part 1. Here in part 2, we're picking up where we left off, which is our next topic, stance. If you take anything away from this video, let it be from this part. How you look when you're running and where your view is when nothing is going on is something I like to call default view. View is the most important part in sniping, and you will see why in a moment. Video games like to create the illusion that you are moving your weapon down, left, right, and that you are leading your character by pointing your gun in the direction that you want to go. While this isn't entirely false, it's not the whole story. To become a better player, it's better to think that you're not moving your gun and sights left or right, up or down, but instead you are changing or moving your entire view up, down, left or right, with your gun being a fixed point in the dead center of your screen. As you can see here, when I look around, my gun indeed does not move at all. Instead, it's my entire view that changes as I move the joystick, and notice the gun doesn't move at all, it stays in the same place as I move. If it wasn't for the background, you wouldn't know I moved at all. Now that you know your gun is stuck in a fixed point within your view, that also means that your bullets will come out in the same place every time, and that place is a little up from dead center of your screen. For all intents and purposes, it's the direct center of your screen. Screen. No matter where you look, how you look, zoomed in or out, your bullet will always go to the exact center of your screen every time. Remember, changing your view, you're not pointing your gun. If you want to know the exact position of where your bullet will be, simply aim. Your reticles on every scope, on every weapon, all line up to one single point in your view, and that's dead center of your view. Even as I switch weapons back and forth from different scopes and different weapon types, all those reticles or weapon sights, they all point and line up to the exact same place every time. Whether I ADS or hip fire, the bullet will always go to the same place. The only exception is when hip firing sniper rifles, and I'll go over that in a little bit. So, now that you know that the dead center of your screen is where every bullet will go, you need to change your stance to work with it. If you notice, most PvE players or raiders have a stance where they all look down and out. I'm one of those people, and we do it so that way we can see obstacles in front of us while still keeping an eye out on the horizon, so we can maintain area awareness with being able to jump over death pits, rocks, whatever. Great PvP players keep their stance or their view at something I like to call headshot level. For mostly PvE players or novice Crucible players, headshot level stances almost feel like, we're looking up too much. But if you keep your gun parallel with the floor or sticking straight out in front of you, that centers your targets almost automatically as soon as they step in front of you. Remember that your bullets will always go to the center of your screen, so without aiming, you know that if you have your target in the center of your screen, all you need to do is pull the trigger and it's a hit. This is where keeping your stance comes into play. If you keep your view at headshot level all the time, any target that runs in front of you, whether you're aiming or not, is already lined up for the shot. Just make a left or right correction, pull the trigger, boom, done. You will be surprised how much your game will improve just by keeping this stance and strafing around corners, only looking left or right, keeping your up and down movements to a minimum. Alright y'all, so here's a question for you. If two Guardians of equal level, equal armor, equal weapons, etc., everything's equal about them, if they're about to duel and shoot each other, who will win? Answer is, whoever gets the headshot first. Well, who gets the headshot first? Answer is, whoever has their stance and target acquisition in play lined up before the act of shooting. Ultimately, in any situation, those who make the least amount of movements or corrections to line up the shot will get the kill first 9 out of 10 times. When you keep this stance with your view looking straight at headshot level, 80% of times the work is done for you. As soon as you zoom in on your targets, the head will be right in between the crosshairs. It's in between the crosshairs because you already centered your target simply by keeping him at the center of your screen or your view. And as soon as you saw him, you were already at headshot level stance, so chances are he walked himself right into position. If you're using a PVE stance, which basically means you're looking down because you have to see where you're going, then not only do you have to stop, make your left-right correction, but then you need to adjust in the other direction up-down as well. That's tons of time wasted and an open opportunity to get shot first, and those who land the first bullet in PvP usually win the battle. If you take anything away from this video, guys, let it be your stance. Now, I've watched a lot of videos out there, and not one person that I saw mentioned this trick. You might say to yourself that your stance is already good. Well, let's find out. There is a mechanism built into Destiny that will help you by leaps and bounds. It did amazing things for me. But the downside is it is annoying as shit. When you go in your inventory button, tab over to the right, and into settings, you'll see something called controller behavior. Click on that and turn auto look to center on. How this mechanism has you look is the exact same way your stance should be at all times in combat. With this little program turned on, anything that walks into view will be at the center of your screen and a headshot if you zoom in with your sniper. Of course, you have to make, your left and right corrections, but nonetheless, half the work is done for you just by using this. This program within Destiny is annoying as hell, and don't use it when you're actually in the Crucible. It'll only mess you up. It'll jerk your view back to center when you occasionally need to look up or down or whatever. However, use it for a solid week in PvE activities or just go and patrol with it every now and then. Learn to run, walk, play with this type of stance. Having this program automatically put you back to a headshot level stance will not only get you used to it, but after some time with it, you will fully see its advantages. Okay, remember back in the beginning when I said choose a sniper rifle and keep using the same ones only? Well, there's a reason for that. Among them is that the more you fire it, the more you know and become aware of its recoil, so if you miss, you already know in which direction to start looking towards in order to line up the shot again. More than that, however, is what I mentioned before about having a frame of reference. I know I pound this center of the screen thing, but it is key, guys. When using the same rifle over and over, and armed with the knowledge that your gun is a fixed position and your bullet will always go to the center of your screen, another fixed position, you can gauge where that bullet will be fairly accurately by using your sniper rifle as a frame of reference. For instance, look at my 1,000 yard stare. I'm going to shoot it into this rock face and create a mark for me to recenter on so I know for sure that it's dead center. Now, when I zoom out, look at the end of the barrel and where that center bullet hole is. You can see that it's roughly 2 inches or so left and up from the end of my barrel on a 1,000 yard stare, roughly about 45-degree angle. So since none of these items move, you can use that area as an invisible crosshair. Use your stance to center your enemies. Use this barrel technique, as I like to call it, as a way to not only double check yourself, but a way to pinpoint where you want your bullet to go. Just like scoping something in. You can see why you should only use one rifle now, right? Getting used to all of its factors like recoil, shot pattern, bounce back, rate of fire, perks, etc., on top of knowing the distance to center from the end of your barrel. It's a lot of stuff to remember. Each gun is different, and they all are pretty close to being the same when it comes to this barrel technique. But when it comes to headshots, guys, close doesn't cut it. Precision is key, and the only way to get to that is with continued practice with your favorite rifle. For instance, here's what we just saw. The 1,000 yard stare and its distance to center using the barrel technique. Now here's the Omelon Azumi, whatever it's called. A shorter weapon, more rectangular, higher set frame, and notice that the direct center isn't a 45 degrees left and up anymore. It's more like a directly left at 30 degrees. No Land Beyond, Icebreaker, and Hecky rifles are way worse than that. They're all different, but only your sniper rifle using your stance and your barrel technique will matter to you. So get to know those. and everything will just fall into place. This all falls into target acquisition. In general, it simply means finding or lining a target or targets, but it's better to think of this as finding the angle of attack on your target. Know the flow of the map, where the choke points are, how teams move. It's always best to let enemies come to you, and when you're in a ready position, scoped in, ready to go, always aim for the head. If you're a pulse rifle guy like myself and love the perk Head Seeker, aim for the upper chest or neck. Remember the two equally matched opponents we talked about earlier? If they meet face to face, same level, same weapon, same armor, who's going to get the kill first? The one who gets the headshot first, obviously, but who gets the headshot first? It's not the one who's the most accurate, but the one who makes the least amount of adjustments. So now let's put everything together. But first, remember how I said all bullets go to the center of your screen except for hip firing a sniper rifle? Okay, so one last thing. When you nail down your stance to always be headshot level, it's only a matter of time and practice before hip firing anything becomes a lot easier. It becomes so easy, in fact, that some don't even need sights on a sniper rifle. You can just gauge where the bullet goes by the barrel technique and being correctly stanced, and then it's simple to get a headshot over and over and over. So, with that in mind, most games put a mechanism into place so that when you hip fire a sniper rifle, it will drastically curb the bullet. So, by now we know that the bullet will go to the same place every time, but look what happens when I hip fire it. You will see it way off target, and the farther I back up, the worse it gets. Now, this doesn't mean you can't no-scope people. As you can see here, it's clearly possible, but at very close distances. The bullet will start in its usual center position, so if you walk up to an enemy, you'll likely hit it as long as it's centered, although probably not very accurately. Far away, however, it curves just too drastically, and the only way to release that mechanism is to look down the sights, or ADS, which stands for aim down sights. So while ADSing, it releases this mechanism, and this is where quickscoping comes into play. Quickscoping is the act of already having your target centered by way of headshot level stance, and he's lined up for a headshot because you have him dialed in with the barrel technique. As soon as you look down your sights, pull the trigger. Since you can't just press down the trigger and hip fire due to that mechanism, you need to look down the sights, then immediately or simultaneously fire the shot. This is the act of quickscoping. Work on your stance and correctly centering your target first. Once that becomes muscle memory, quickscoping is just a very easy addition to slap on at the end. You'll be surprised how easily it comes naturally to you. Now you can see the reason why people love that perk Snapshot so much. The faster you aim to turn off that bullet curbing mechanism, the faster you can get your bullet to the enemy. You're only ADSing because you have to. These things put it into a competition scenario where everything is fast paced, and seeing a quickscope is always a thing of beauty. Practice is key here. Worry about your techniques. Once you know that for sure, everything's flawless, then worry about quickscoping. Alright, so next up, drag scoping. This is something I necessarily don't like, but can become useful in a fast-paced situation. Remember, the closer you are, the easier it is. Okay, so drag scoping is the act of pulling off a shot while you're still moving your sights. Remember, bullets start at one point, and in computer games mostly go in a straight line from there. The program can sense when your crosshairs are on the enemy's head, and even though in real life you have to lead a moving target, in computer games you usually don't. So as long as you can pull the trigger while the crosshairs are on target, that bullet will hit them no matter what. Even if they, duck behind cover afterwards or running up super fast, doing a backflip, whatever. The easiest way to practice drag scoping is getting a feel for how to start shooting at the right time. This can be done with a scout rifle or a hand cannon. Find an enemy, and while hip firing or aiming, start way out to the right and briskly drag your reticle or sights from the right side of your screen to the left. And when you make that line, make sure the path you drag your reticle over has the enemy's head intersecting it about halfway. And as you're moving your reticle from left to right, or right to left, whatever, doesn't really matter, keep moving it without stopping. So one line, one constant motion, one fluid motion from start to finish. While in the middle, that's where you're going to pull the trigger. Keep moving your reticle all the way. That is drag scoping, simply put. Do that same motion while at ADS and using a sniper rifle on a Guardian, and it becomes a lot harder. You might not know it, but even the smallest enemy in Destiny, like Thrall or a Dreg, is bigger than your character. As you can see here by my magnificent dancing, not only is the body bigger, but the head is as well. This is done on purpose because they want you to have an easier target to hit in PvE. This is also why some struggle when switching game types. Everything in PvP is faster, smaller, more agile. PvE, larger, slower, bigger hitboxes. All you need is a bit of practice. Keep these tips in mind and you are G to G, my friends. Remember, keeping this stance and using these tips work for just about all weapons. Maybe besides a shotgun or perhaps a fusion rifle at times, but you want to always aim for the head. Pulse rifles with the perk Head Seeker, you aim for the upper chest, neck, so you can get that extra precision damage on those next bullets. But other than that, every weapon, headshot, every time. Keeping your stance at headshot level, approaching corners by strafing around them, keeping hallways and corners pointed towards your chest at all times, that will go a long way. Most of the time, keeping that stance and the mindset that you're moving your view, not your gun, will also go a long way, and you'll notice that most enemies will walk right into the center of your screen. Just make that small adjustment by using the end of your barrel as your frame of reference, and you're G to G, guys. It takes practice. Actually, it takes a lot of practice to keep your stance like that. And at first, it kind of feels like you're looking way too far up. It's almost uncomfortable, but you will see improvements very, very quickly. And you'll notice that most of the times when you die in a Crucible match, it's because you're already hurt, you're reloading, or because they caught you off stance looking down, and they landed the shot first. Like I said before, usually the one who lands the first shot will always win that match. But that's it, guys. I know it's long as balls, but I wanted to be absolutely thorough on how to achieve these tips. Like I said, once you get that moment of, wow, you're right, I'm not aiming my gun at all, and you keep your stance at headshot level, you will see a huge improvement in kill times. But finding your absolute center to where you can start quick scoping will take time. Let me know in the comments below if you used any of these tips in the Crucible, or if you've been practicing with these tips and have noticed an overall improvement of any kind. Even if it just nets you a few extra kills per match, then my goal, guys, has been met. I hope this brings some light to you, to those that need a little bit of help. And if you already know all this stuff, then hopefully I can relight the spark in you to go out there and try a little bit harder. Remember, the only difference between a pro gamer and you is that they practiced way more than you. That's it. So like I said, comment below if this helped you at all. I hope it did. And if you'd like to see any other gameplay videos, let me know what y'all need help on, and I'll see what I can do. I don't know everything, but I know a lot about Destiny, and I want to try to help you guys as much as possible. If you have any tips for others, definitely leave them for us to read. Always keep an open mind, and if you're a new viewer, you are the shit. Thanks for popping in. I'm a small YouTuber, and it's great to have new viewers check out my vids, so thank you, good sir or madam. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Sly Nation or Google Plus under the same name. I'm actually kind of lonely over there, guys. Anyway, that's it. As usual, if you're watching this right here, right if and now, then you, my quickscoping beast of a friend, are the biggest badass this dude has ever seen. Happy sniping. I miss the weekend, and this is your man Sly, guys. Done, gone, out.